Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3newsgh for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3newsgh and at 3sportsgh. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3newsgh for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3newsgh and at 3sportsgh. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major.
Another Saturday is here with us, a beautiful Saturday morning it is. It is the 4th of November 2017. A very good morning to you and welcome to the show. This is New Day Saturday edition. We are live on TV3 here in Accra. We're also live on 3FM 92.7. We are also streaming live on the internet at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page TV3 Ghana. We'll be running from now till 9:50 where conversations here will be brought to a close. As usual, you are invited to send in your comments, contributions, and whatever it is you have on your mind in respect of the topics I'll be outlining very soon. Let us have it. We'll share it with the rest of the world. Our WhatsApp number will be displayed at the bottom of the screens very soon, so just keep a lookout for that number and then send your comments through. My name is Abna Tibi once again. And what topics are we looking at this morning? It's been an eventful week, and we will be narrowing down to just about 3 hot topics that made the headlines. We would start with the undiplomatic utterances made by a diplomat, and here we're talking about Mr. A.C. Boateng. And now, while speaking at a gathering of some members of the Tertiary Students Confederacy Network, TESCON in Kumasi, the High Commissioner to South Africa, in the person of Mr. George A.C. Boateng, made some comments that a cross-section of Ghanaians consider rather undiplomatic and constitute grounds for his removal. Now, the question is, what could he have been thinking, the High Commissioner to South Africa, when he, among other things, said this, and I'm going to quote him. He says, "My topmost priority is the problems of an NPP person before any other Ghanaian." He didn't stop there. He went on to modify a statement in George Orwell's Animal Farm, and he said, "We are all Ghanaians, but some are more Ghanaian than others." Indeed, what was Mr. A.C. Boateng thinking? Now, when questioned about these comments, Mr. A.C. Boateng stood by his convictions, but subsequently he apologized. And we are informed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that his apology has been accepted. Now, despite this apology, which has been accepted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a cross-section of Ghanaians are still of the view that Mr. A.C. Boateng has lost credibility and legitimacy to continue in office as High Commissioner and should be removed. Will Mr. A.C. Boateng surprise us by gracefully resigning? Will he be fired by the President? Or he will continue to serve in his capacity as Ghana's High Commissioner to South Africa, only to serve the interests of NPP members at the detriment of the national interest? Now, these are some of the questions that are agitating my mind, and I do believe that they are agitating the minds of well-meaning Ghanaians. On the show this morning, the panel will be looking at this rather unsavory development. Also up for discussion is the accusation and counter-accusations that are going on with the Ghana Cocoa Board and the minority in Parliament. Now, Since the present NPP government took office on 7 January 2017, we have, as is characteristic of change of government, consistently heard allegations of corruption against the previous John Mahama administration. Now, one entity which has consistently been in the news in respect of alleged acts of corruption by previous officers is Cocoa Board. And this week, Cocoa Board didn't disappoint. It was in the news yet again. But we are asking questions. To what end? If indeed there is some malfeasance suspected against former officers of the entity Cocoa Board, is a trial in the media of such named culprits the way to go? How do we get on with the fight against corruption that has been touted all this while? And so what is the relevance of putting out information about alleged acts of corruption when we don't see any follow-throughs in terms of prosecutions or filing of civil suits to recover monies that duly belong to the state? We shall be looking at this development where we have allegations being thrown out there, but little or no prosecutions or pursuits of the recovery of monies belonging to the state are seen. Lastly, we will be looking at the ever-recurring Fulani herdsmen and local communities clashes. Now, year in, year out, this features strongly on the calendar of activities in the country, if you like. Now, why do we seem not to be having some lasting solutions to the security challenge? It's one of the issues agitating my mind this morning, and I believe it is agitating the minds of well-meaning Ghanaians out there. So we will be looking at this issue in some detail to see whether or not we can prefer some solutions that would actually be implemented and go a long way to solving this problem. We will take a break at this point. When we come back, I will introduce to you the panelists for today's conversation, and the conversation would kickstart. You're watching New Day Saturday edition. We'll be right back. Stick and stay with us.
Stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories.
Welcome back. This is New Day Saturday edition, live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7. And on the internet at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. I'll quickly introduce the panel for today's conversations. From my extreme left, we have Mr. Ade Koka. He is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the National Democratic Congress, NDC. Next is Professor Clement Jidonu. He is the President of the Accra Institute of Technology, AIT. Next is Clara Berry Kasati. She is a private legal practitioner, also a lecturer at the Gimpa Law School and managing partner of Casa Law Firm. Last but not least is Akbar Ruhullah Khomeini, NPP Communications Team member. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Abuna.
It's good to have you here.
It's good to
Most especially Clara.
It's good to be here.
Yes, great. So once again, welcome. We will start off with the diplomatic utterances made by our High Commissioner to South Africa, Mr. Isi Boateng. Now, Mr. Isi Boateng, what do we do with him? What do we do to him? What do we do for him, really? This is a man obviously looking at his utterances and the subsequent, his subsequent posture when he was interviewed. You could tell he has strong beliefs in what he said. And now he's apologized. It's been accepted by the ministry. People are calling for his head. How do you see this? I'll start with you, Professor Jidonu.
Good morning to your viewers. Well, did you say our High Commissioners to South Africa? I'm not sure if it's our High Commissioner to South Africa, since he decided to say that he can only represent some people. Now, for me, what he said was not smart, was not thoughtful in the first place. But we all sometimes, in the spur of a moment, we say things that we regret. What he said, he was talking to his constituency, his own people, or that is the way he sees it. He was talking to, I understand what, MPP Students Association, something like that?
Yes, students.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, he thought that, well, these are my people. They might have contributed to where I am now, and I must promise them something. So he said, well, you guys, you are first on my list. That said, when it was brought to his attention that, look, you shouldn't have said that. You are a diplomat. You are representing Ghana, a nation, and its people in a foreign country. You shouldn't have said that. The wise thing you should have done, straight away, say, hey, guys, sorry, I didn't mean it that way. And then this matter will have died. And at the time, he was defending himself consistently, which means that what he said was not a gaffe. He meant what he said. Immediately after that, he confirmed that he didn't deny what he said. He said, yes, I said what I said. By the way,
actually went on to give some analogies about
Well, is that when you
looking out for your wife and kids when you have a larger family. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, that is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
His wife and kids, a larger family. I think that's a very bad analogy. We are talking here simply about a country which he is representing. He was not representing MPP in South Africa. It's okay. Politicians do that all the time. They promise their people, what they call their people, they all do it. They lecture to their own people, their own members. But that notwithstanding, as soon as the nation, country, pointed to you, you shouldn't have said that. I think you should have come and clarify that, well, no, that's not what I meant. I didn't say that I'm going to represent these people alone. I didn't say that. Or I said that, but I shouldn't have said that. I'm sure by this time we shouldn't be talking about this issue now. But my understanding that he went ahead, did he deny what he said? He even clarified and added more weight to it, and then went to say that he believed in it. Is that correct? And then some people somewhere put pressure on him, and he came to apologize. It's just like I said that if you want me to apologize, I apologize.
That sounds familiar.
Yes, it sounds familiar. So for me, I'm quite a bit disappointed on that. Politicians are free to make promises to what they call their own people, because they thought they are the people who brought them to power. But there are some things which are said privately. Sometimes you can think aloud to yourself without saying things. Okay? You can think, you might have that in his mind, but he should have kept it to himself. But if he even want to say it, he must be very careful. So for me, this apology is a false one. Or people, our own probably say is a awam kind of apology. He didn't do it out of his heart. He was told, he was pressured by his colleagues to do it, to stop the embarrassment. Now that he's done it, well, it's up to we Ghanaians to decide whether it's good enough. For me, it's not good enough because he was pressured. If we'll have said that, if we'll have given an apology soon after that, I think I will have taken it genuinely. I don't think it's a genuine one. He said it, but so let's say people are asking for his resignation. Is that correct?
Yep.
Well, I'm not sure whether
Resignation or removal.
Removal by the president. Well, let's leave it to the president.
Right.
We all heard what he said. Let the president make his mind.
Right,
yes.
sure. So, I mean, elements of your submission here leads me to, my next question, and I will direct it to Mr. Adekoka, because you are also from a political party, an active politician. Now, some have said that, indeed, what Mr. Isi Boateng said is spot on. I mean, for those criticizing him, it's either they're being politically naive or they're just being downright hypocritical, because this is what has been happening in our politics in recent history. And so, having lambast him is a bit out of proportion. So my question is it the case that Mr. Isi Boateng dared to say publicly, even though inexpedient, what most politicians believe but don't dare to say publicly?
Abna, good morning to yourself and my panel, my co-panelists here, and also your esteemed viewers out there. What you just said is correct, but it depends on who is saying it and in what capacity are you saying it. If a serial caller had made that statement, I don't think there will be any hue and cry, because these statements have been
so
made.
let me modify the question a bit.
Okay.
A politician, but who holds a public office?
Exactly. That's where I'm coming to. Right. And that's why I said, if I say it, I'll be in trouble because of the position I hold in the party. Right. People who have said I should be circumspect, even though I know that I must satisfy my party members when my party is in power. We in NDC had a problem because most of our foot soldiers were grumbling that we were not taking care of them. But like Prof said, you say these things behind the curtain. Unfortunately, Mr. Isi Boateng has got a certain title, which is His Excellency Isi Boateng, Ghana's ambassador to no mean place like South Africa. And when you go to his office, I don't think you see MPP flag in his office. You see the flag of Ghana and the coat of arms of Ghana, which means he's representing the president. Should we say then that what he said was the thinking of the president? Because when you're an ambassador, you are representing the president. So the vision, the ideals and everything of the president is what you go out to espouse. So should we ask the question that what he said is what the president wanted him to say? I don't think so. I don't think so. So he has to carry the can. The fact that he could have said it if he was not a high commissioner and he had gone to an MPP function and he's trying to tell his people, this is what, as a member of the MPP, I will do to you. I'll make sure that I attend to your needs before I attend the needs of other members. There's nothing wrong. But as an ambassador, as a diplomat, right, that statement is very divisive and very discriminatory. And to go further and say that there are MPP people are more Ghanaian than others. Don't forget, it's not only MPP people who voted for the MPP party. I'm sure some NDC people voted for them. I'm sure there are some
disgruntled NDC.
Exactly. I'm sure there are some floating voters out there. So how do you classify those people too? So like you said, animal farm, precisely. And I think it is in a bad taste. And like Prof said, if after the event, within 24 hours, you come out and say, this is a gaffe, a slip, I'm sorry. Look at I'm very, very, but to go further and say that, I think I heard somewhere that he said if people are not happy, they can even go to court. You understand? I mean, he went further, and for 5 days running, right? It means that he said it from his heart, he meant it, And coming to apologize is an afterthought. It's an afterthought, right? 3 days, 4 days is an afterthought. And I think the president at this moment of time, which His Excellency, right, must really, really look into this. The Minister of Foreign Affairs saying that I mean, sometimes you look in the face of us, Ghanaians, and you make this kind of statement, it means that, well, anybody can get up and make that statement, get away with it. I recall the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, if I'm right. It's the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, who went up north, sat his office and said, our brothers up there, right? I don't want to say what he said, right? Went on the same tangent, apologized, but the president asked him to step aside. Because I realized that what he had said was not in the good taste of this country. And don't forget, this is a unitary state. I mean, we have come a long way, regardless of our political differences. We've come a long way. And politicians, certain things that you have to say behind, if you want it to be said, you can whisper that to your serial callers and people who, when they say nobody is going to attack, they get away with it free. You know, so for me, his position and that title that he has got, His Excellency, people just don't get up and are given that title just like, you don't go to Makola and then they pick it up from the counter. So when we are clothed with the word His Excellency, I mean...
Or that you're in a public office.
Exactly, a very high office. Because you represent the president in another country. And when they see you as the president of Ghana, there, in that particular country. So it's up to the president to decide what he wants to do. For me, an apology is not the best. And I will still give him the title, His Excellency, I see what should do the right thing by Monday. He should come out and say that he has resigned his position.
Very well. Clara, let me come to you now. Now, listening to Mr. Adekoku speak, you know, I pose a question to him, which is thing about what the psyche of a politician as against what is deemed appropriate and therefore can be uttered in public or what is not. It seems we're caught in a bind here. I don't know, but this is what I'm getting, that yes, those conceptions, wrong as they may be, are there, but just don't put it out there because of the public office you hold. Now, how do we, you know, deal with this issue in order to put nation above party? Because speaking to, or hearing Mr. Adekoku speak, there is that admission that indeed, yes, that is, you know, the mentality around. But given your position, you should be circumspect. So it's as if to say that, but for your position, you could have that mentality.
In fact, I was concerned. I must admit that I was concerned listening to some of the issues, and not just here, even the discussion among the public, as well as social media, the tone that it took, and then the arguments back and forth. I was very concerned. So before I come to answering your question, I want to give us a certain background. First of all, I want us to remember who we are. We are people who are very different in very ways. In very many ways. We have people who are of different ethnicities. We are people who are of different religions. We are people who are of different beliefs and a lot of other, we have a lot of differences. But having differences anywhere in the world is an advantage. If you are able to harness those differences to your best advantage. So this is who we are. We came together and gave ourselves the 1992 Constitution. And when we came together and gave ourselves that Constitution, we made certain fundamental rules in that Constitution. In fact, for any political party that exists today, it is because the 1992 Constitution granted that right. So the public office holders today, the politicians we have today, they derive that right from the 1992 Constitution, and they must respect it. Also, in that same 1992 Constitution, it is pretty clear. The Constitution states it very clearly that anybody who occupies the essential running of government, all aspects of government, is to be able to afford equal opportunities to the people to pursue their own prosperity. That is the kind of governance that we run. Now, what have politicians done? When we are talking about leadership, what I expect is that politicians would be able to inculcate in their followers, including their serial callers, that this is the minimum standard that we have. That as a people, we have different political beliefs. We contest on ideas as to who is best able to govern the country. And this is what we want to do for the people of Ghana. So I expect that politicians would have even told all of their serial callers and all of their youth that this is who we are. The fact that we are political opponents doesn't mean that we are enemies or anything else. It's just a contest of ideas. We don't agree, and we don't have to agree. So we compete, and we see who has the better agenda, who is able to better afford the people what they want. But apart from that, we are all Ghanaians. Because like it or not, face the facts, when we all go back there and we are relating amongst ourselves, we are not relating as one party or the other. We are just relating as people. That is who we are. So yes, I expect that we would have our political preferences. We have our political ideologies. We have the right to bring up our followers in line with those parties. But I think the leaders have an obligation to not mislead their followers. And I think that's what politicians have done. Politicians have succeeded in misleading especially the youth.
And especially with this one, he was speaking to the youth in the university.
That was my worry. How are we training the people? So, and then we say, okay, a serial caller, I don't think it is okay for a serial caller to say this. I don't think it's okay for anybody to think this. I think if a serial caller called in and said this, a party elder would call that serial caller and say that, no, this is what politics is about, but we have certain minimum requirements. So it comes back to what are the minimum standards for us as a nation, because invariably it looks as if the nation doesn't exist. It is politicians that exist, and then politicians use whatever means they can to manipulate the nation for their own interests. Because at the end of the day, when there is trouble, the politicians usually wouldn't be around. They would have had other ways to deal with it. So I think we have to go back to the concept of leadership. Otherwise, we failed. What it really means is that our politicians have failed in their duty to be able to bring up citizens who understand that they are Ghanaian first and all, and that they have a right to have political views. But in spite of their political differences, these are the minimum standards that we ascribe to. If we are able to bring ourselves in that light, now those persons who go contrary to the minimum standards, we are able to tell them that, no, you are out of line, so step in line. If you go contrary to the minimum standards, it is you who has betrayed us, not the other way around. Right. But if we go around making, whether it is serial callers, especially the youth, we bring them up wrongly, then in the long run, what country are we hoping to build? So I think this, for me, this transcends. You shouldn't have said it. You shouldn't even have it in the first place. You shouldn't even have that belief in the first place. Not that you should have that belief, but you shouldn't express it. So we are telling that, let's be hypocrites. Is that not it?
Which is what people are saying.
That let's be hypocrites. You say one thing, but do another thing. I don't think those are the kinds of values we want to inculcate. So I wouldn't say that it is okay for Mr. Eyisi to think like that. He should just not say it. I would say that, no, it is not okay to even think like that.
Quickly, yeah, and then I come to the Hula.
The question that such a thing, does it happen in the system? And I'm trying to say that I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm saying it does, because the thinking of the parties that when they come to power, they have to take care of their support.
So then it means political parties have lost it then?
I'm saying that over the years. Look, we see, Abra, we cannot run away from it.
Yeah, but that's a reality. Yes, that's true. But that's why
we deal with it.
Yes.
We have to correct it. We can say,
Mr. Adekoya is laughing, making it seem like we are some different.
Exactly.
It is wrong.
It is wrong, but it's the reality.
So should we let it?
I'm telling you that the reality on the ground is that politicians go to Ghana votes.
So in other words, Mr. Adekoya, you're saying that politicians have failed.
Well, the system that we have practiced over the years, the winner take all. You will come to Cocoa Board, and I've got a lot to say on that issue. Right? That kind of trajectory has landed in us in such a way that because I want the professor to vote for me, I'll have to come and tell him sweet things so that I'll get his vote. Instead of him telling me, look, I want you to be on, I'm going to bring policies that you have to take the relevant step to go into those policies and earn a living or eke out a living. I'll say, I'll give you free school. I'll give you free uniform. I'll give you free that. So what do you expect?
Very well.
When that free thing is coming, the first point of call is your supporters.
Very well. We'll interrogate you some more, but let me hear from Ruhula here. Clearly, political parties, as we consistently say in Ghana, see themselves as election machines, election winning machines. But we obviously know that political parties are there to serve, purposes beyond this. Political parties are supposed to be agents of development, to drive a certain agenda in terms of the thinking, the political psyche of the people. But clearly we've lost it. And I'm happy that this has been admitted around this table. But let me hear from you, Ruhula. As an NPP person, when you heard this, what did you think? And moving forward, what do you think should be done to Mr. Yisi Boati?
Well, first of all, it is important to establish that it is not out of place for government appointees to engage in partisan politics. That must be clearly established. I've heard arguments that why is an ambassador engaged in political activism? It is certainly not out of place. And since 1992, we have had several of such instances of ambassadors engaging in active partisan politics. It is the content of the speech that ought to be interrogated. And for me, after listening to the tape, I felt embarrassed. I must be honest. The fact that a public office holder would think that some people are more Ghanaians than others. And like Clara said, it is important that we abide by the tenets of our constitution and live it. That is the only way we can build a dignified country. I mean, if you go and read the directive principles of state policy, the political objectives stated therein, Article 35 of the Constitution, prohibits government from engaging in activities which are discriminatory on the basis of religion, ethnicity, or any other belief, including political belief. In fact, that same provision enjoins government to take just and reasonable steps so as to enable citizens have access to all forms of government services. So if you look at the comments in this light, you are left with only one conclusion, that the comment was in bad taste and ought to be unreservedly condemned. And I'm happy that even government took the position that there was the urgent need for him to retract those comments. But the argument that...
But beyond that, you see, again, sorry to cut you, you definitely go back to it, but looking at the timeline of events, he said it to his constituents or his base. Then he had the opportunity to retract, but he stuck to his guns.
Well, if you read his statement of apology, he made a very, very important statement. He said, upon sober reflection, unless we are insisting that there's a timeline for an individual to soberly reflect on a matter.
Of course, looking at the gravity of certain
there's
issues.
Absolutely no timeline. Somebody could soberly reflect on a matter within 24 hours. Another could do that in a week. Another could do that in a month. The most important thing is that at the end of the day, after soberly reflecting on the statement, he came to the realization that, first of all, it offends the clear language of the 1992 Constitution and does not merit the office to which he occupies. And that on the basis of that, he is unreservedly apologizing to the government and people of Ghana. As far as I'm concerned, we need to accept the apology and move on. I believe that he has learned his lessons, and all other public office holders would have learned lessons from this conduct, that going forward, it is the desire of government to pursue policies that benefit the people of Ghana, regardless their political beliefs, regardless their religious beliefs, and regardless the circumstances of birth. Government's ultimate objective is to ensure that every citizen has equal access to government services. And
But
that should be the guiding principle going forward.
Great. Also, the guiding principle that perhaps should help us move forward is the fact that there is a precedent here where we have a deputy minister of Agric who had to resign when he made those unsavory comments. So against that, you have that standard. Would you want to lower the bar now?
Well, you see, we cannot, it is said that you cannot approbate and reprobate. On one bread, we are saying that let us adhere to the tenets of our constitution. On another bread, we are using private individual standards to measure up to what other people should do.
But
Okay, in the case of the deputy Agric minister, he decided after the apology on his own volition to resign. It's a matter that is left to IEC Boatin to determine, or for the president to say that under the circumstances, I think that you are no longer required to represent the sovereign Republic of Ghana in South Africa. Until that determination is made, we should leave it at that and accept the apology as the foreign ministry has said.
Very well. I go back to Prof. Again, the question that I just posed to Ruhul, I want to throw it to you as well. We have a certain precedent here. It may have come from his own, perhaps also sober reflections, and then he decided that, okay, I need to resign. But there is that, example. How do we, look at this situation now against that standard we already have? Would it be lowering the bar if this is allowed to continue? He keeps his office and continues to run as High Commissioner.
Well, when you look at our political landscape, ministers, public officials don't resign just like that. There's a case now in Britain. Is it the British defense minister?
Defense minister, yes.
Resign on something which he said, well, the way I see it, I got to go. But our guys here don't do like that. They have to be forced out, especially if you embarrass your colleagues.
That's why perhaps we need to encourage that practice.
Oh,
so
it will take a while. It will take a while. You don't know how much these people put into becoming what they become. It's a lot of investment. And they're not going to give that up very easily. And sometimes too, when you are in a position and then something happens, you're asked to resign. You resign to what? Some of these people don't have other options. They are working on one leg because they've traveled a long way to get to where they are now. You ask it to resign to go and sit in a house or what? Some people have options. Okay, look, I've made a mess of it. I have other things to do. Let me step aside as an honorable person and do something else. Don't hang around for you to be kicked out. That's what I said. It's up to the president. The president is hearing everything we're all hearing. Okay? And I'm sure the president is an honorable man. He will make a determination, given the weight of the information, the balance here and there. He has to make a decision. So now it's in the court of the president. Now, as to how long does it take one to reflect on things?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you see, when you make a statement, as a smart person, when you make a statement, and a thoughtful statement, it shouldn't, and you know it's wrong, you believe it's wrong, you don't need to take a 1 hour, 2 hours for you to say, hey, guys, it's a gaffe. Hey, I didn't mean it that way. When it takes long means even a day, for you as a politician to come back and say, I'm sorry. Not only that, before that, he was defending it. I don't know, I was not following a lot of the issues, but I don't think the MPP as a party, were they defending this guy? I'm sure they all said, look, you shouldn't have done this. Okay, so the writing is there all along. That look, something's wrong here, do something about it. It took him a while to do it. So for me, whether politicians will change, stop promising their people, I don't think it's going to change. Because that is part of the trade. We can appeal to them on a moral ground and say, look, guys, you shouldn't do that. Of course, you can tell people don't do that, but you can think for them. Okay? You can think for people. So what I think is that, yes, this guy said what he said. He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize straight away. He defended it and embarrassed all of us. Probably might not have embarrassed himself. So here we are. He has apologized. I said that apology came too late. But it's up to the president, who is a bigger person than all of us here, to make a determination. If you say, well, the apology is accepted, go to South Africa and go on the job, that's up to the president too. If the president says, look, on reflection, I think you have embarrassed all of us, you should not have said that. So you step aside, probably I'll give you something else. We'll see that too. At the end of the day, I think this ambassador is the High Commissioner, did something wrong. He didn't apologize straight away. He apologized later on. And let me tell you, these apologies, you see, when something happens like that, colleagues rally around. They make telephone calls. This guy didn't just stand up and apologize 72 hours. Pressure was put on him to do it. I can tell you, pressure was put on him to do it.
Very well.
So let's see what happens. His colleagues himself, they were embarrassed. So let's see whether they will take it.
But he did say in his statement that he says other appointees share his views as well. So
very good. That's what that's a diplomatic way of saying it. I said
he did say,
there was a pressure on him that, look, you have embarrassed us.
Let me just quote.
Yes, really.
He says, and I know my colleague appointees also have the same feeling, except that because of IMF, we cannot do anything now. In terms of saying that he'll give opportunities to, members of the party and all of that.
No,
So
I don't understand that. The colleague
he says,
yes.
And I know my colleague appointees also have the same feeling.
Which feelings?
What he expressed. He says, indeed, I'm not boasting, but I've started meeting the NPP groups. Every weekend I meet some group members, and I tell you, if I had my way, every job opportunity that will come will go to a TESCON member before any other person. And then he goes on to add that, and I know my colleague appointees also have the same feeling, except that because of IMF, we cannot do anything now.
Okay, so you see, he's also embarrassing his colleagues. Said that I'm not the only one who had that view.
I brought that in because of what you said, that how people put pressure on him.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There are some things, you see, you cannot think for people. Politicians will continue to think the way politicians think. Do things the way they do things until they are caught and say, no, you can't do that. This is beyond. You've gone beyond the limit. So for me, these are very clear as daylight. These people promise what they call their people. They are now in power. So they must keep reminding them that, don't worry, we are going to live up to your expectations. You could have said that in private and leave us alone. But he said it. And now he embarrassed all of us. So let the president make a decision. There's enough on the table now. We all know the issues. He said it. He didn't deny it. He took a tour to come and apologize. We've heard it. Now, Mr. President, you make a decision. You're the big guy. Think about it. If you didn't do anything too, we will know. If you do it too, we know. For me, that's as straightforward as that.
Right. Clara, let me come quickly. Rahula, just a minute. Okay, quickly, then I go to Clara.
Prof made a very striking point in his latest submission. He said that you cannot think for people. And for me, that's very, very striking. But he's here thinking for Ayesi Boateng that he was under pressure to come out to apologize, and that the decision to wait 72 hours before he apologized was an afterthought. He's
That's his opinion. He's not thinking for him. That's an opinion.
Because there's no evidence
that an opinion.
that the apology was necessitated by pressure. All what Prof is doing is to speculate. And in the absence of any incontrovertible evidence, we cannot rely on speculation to conclude that Ayesi Boateng apologized because of pressure brought to bear by his colleagues. There's absolutely no evidence to that effect.
But again, that's his opinion. He thinks, considering everything, that's what he thinks, and he's entitled to that opinion. But like I said, in the absence of
any evidence,
somebody who believed in what he said, there's no need then for any apology.
Well,
there's no need for.
But then he said upon sober reflections.
No.
It is not wrong for people to hold beliefs. Okay. The honorable thing to do is that when you are confronted with evidence that your belief is unsavory, is wrong, and on the basis of the examination of the evidence, you say to yourself that I was in error. There's absolutely nothing wrong.
Great. Now let me go on. Mr. Dekuka, please hold that. Note it down, because this question is, I don't want to lose this link. And I go back to Clara here. The man stuck to his guns, and I keep on saying this. Now, this is clearly an entrenched, belief system he has. It's not something that, he just thought about and said. He actually believes in that. Does this bring into serious focus here the considerations we put into appointing people. Because if, for instance, this man had been, you know, I don't know if it's vetted or whatever, perhaps we would have seen certain, you know, attributes that would perhaps give us an indication of his leanings. Well, that depends on how thorough the vetting would be, but at least we would have, you know, come to some realization as to the kind of person he is and whether he's cut out for the role he's going to be playing. This is a high commissioner representing Ghana's interest in South Africa. And then you have these comments that clearly are in conflict with the very essence of diplomatic relations. So does this, you know, some people are saying perhaps this is a manifestation of the political norm that when there's a change in government, we distribute political power like the spoils of war. You know, left, right, center, take this, grab whatever it is you want to grab, give to whoever you think, you know, has done something. It's a reward system. We are rewarding people. Mr. Adekoko was talking about the fact that you need to win power at all costs, so you do all sorts of things, and at the end of the day, you're seen to be rewarding people for certain roles they played in the, you know, lead up to elections.
When it comes to, yes, I would say yes and no when it comes to the standards that we apply. It is possible that you could have gone through due process in terms of even having an interview, and this trait will not show up. And also, even if the trait shows up, it depends on the psyche of the panel, the interview panel at the time. If the interview panel, for example, the view that was expressed that it's okay, the thinking itself is okay, the only problem is voicing it. Even if he expressed that this is how I think, they probably wouldn't see anything wrong with it if you are of the view that it's okay to hold that view, but just don't express it. So I would, it would be difficult to say that we have had him because there was a problem with the procedure. It is possible that you would have gone through due procedure, and these traits, you can miss them. So it's difficult to say. It's just that now we have it. Now he has said it. So we're from here. But I wouldn't say because of this necessarily, without more facts to my benefit. I wouldn't say that there was a problem with the procedure.
The considerations, right.
Exactly.
Okay, very well. Mr. Adekoka, you wanted to?
Yes, I was trying to ask my friend a simple question, that if he was not pressurized to render an apology, right, I would not believe that, because the statement he made and subsequently the things that they espouse, and even you read that he said his colleagues even attest to what he has said. It meant that he believed it. So you see, because of public pressure and Apple, that pushed him and his colleagues to ask him to say something.
Which one is colleagues?
Well, I mean, comment, we are all in this game. I mean, we are all in this game. Sometimes one of my attributes, when I go on this kind of programs, I like to look at reality. That's the name of the game. When you want to play the ostrich and behave as if, oh, it's normal. He just got up and decided to go. The man from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday stood on firm grounds and said, well, no way. There's nothing that he has said that he's sorry about. So it's an afterthought. And somebody must have whispered to him, look, the way things are going, look, the party, the MPP party, if they believe that what he was saying was not right, should have issued a statement condemning it. Yeah. They haven't done that. The party itself should have come out with a statement saying, we MPP, we don't believe, but during the whole, every MPP member, communicator whom I listened to, that's why I came to City and said that I, as a regional.
Are you saying every NPP communicator you've been on the panels with has had to support him?
Until the apology.
Because Rahula here clearly.
Until the apology came. Until
the
apology came, all that they espoused on the radio and television. I mean, I watch your program, even Amelema and somebody, one of Chum were sitting here. There was nothing wrong about that. You know, I said, as a party, these are some of the beliefs of the party. I am not running away from it.
That's what you think.
I am not running away from it. Because I go out to talk to my people. And I know the things I tell them. Rightly or wrongly. I must ginger them. I must make them feel that they belong, they are being taken care of. But like all of us are saying here, Clara said Cyril Kola even is a bad person to have said it. But Cyril Kola is the best person to say the things that party people want it to be said. The big men in private are saying, and they want it to be said. You see, so when you are honest about these things, you have no problem. Parties get power, and their first point of call is to ensure that they make their members comfortable. Because they are the people who they will go back in 4 years or so to ask them to vote for them again. And when you go there, they will ask you, as a minister or as a, what did you do for me? What did you do? And it's there, it's all over the place. But the person who has to say that publicly must be very careful. And I'm saying that here's a person who has a certain title, His Excellency. So it puts him into a certain category where he must watch his words. Unfortunately, he hasn't done so. So it's up to the president. If the president believes, as he's saying, his colleagues believe, that that is the position of the party, then there's no need for him to resign. There's no need for anybody to touch him. They should, because that is the position of the party.
Very well. We need to take a break, but let me take some messages before we go.
It's not
30 seconds to carry
the
on.
NPP has not condemned the comments. The acting national chairman was interviewed regarding his views over the matter. He was very, very candid. He said, I did not hear the comments, but if those attributions made to him are true, then they are condemnable, because that certainly is not the position of the NPP. So the NPP, as a party, through his national chairman, have rejected the comments.
Very well. Okay, let me take some messages quickly and then we go for a break. Good morning to you, Abna, and to your panelists. Abna, please tell the NDC to spare our ears with this noise. What's the difference between what Mr. Isi Boatin said and what he says the late Prof. Mills said when he authorizes appointees to give special attention to members of NDC first before any other Ghanaian where they? NDC should keep their advice to themselves. That is Abdullah Enyendi. Good morning, TV3. My name is Isaac. I would urge, this is the National Service Secretariat to push for private institutions who were provided with national service personnel to pay their 20% contribution and also submit the assessment forms of NSPs so they can get access to the certificates. Okay. Muftau from Bolga Zongo says, it's very usual seeing party leaders addressing their supporters with words that will sweeten them, basically will ginger them up. Or it says, I still remember when the late Professor Mills told his ministers to give opportunities to the NDC foot soldiers. I think Honorable AEC should not have justified it. What is worrying the Ghanaian is better life, which Nanado is giving us. That's coming in from Muftau in Bolgasongo. I thought Mr. Isi Boatin was a man of his words and actually had principles because he rationalized what he said. I never knew he could be coerced to apologize and coil back into his arrogant shell. My issue, however, is with those like Freddie Blay, who defended him so recklessly now that the man has now apologized for his irresponsible utterances. Good morning, Abna and your panelists. As an NPP member, it's an embarrassment, but listen, take a look at what he said and look how he executed his work, especially when other political parties were treated when they found themselves in his office. Let me take this last one here. Now, what Mr. Isi Boatin said exists and no doubt about it, but coming openly to speak like that doesn't give hope to those who aren't aligned to the party. It was too petty for people at his level or such a person to say. That's Aram in Adenta News Site. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will move on to the other topics lined up for today's conversations. You're watching New Day Saturday edition. We'll be right back.
Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3News GH and at 3Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH.
FM 92.7, also streaming live on 3news.com, on YouTube at TV3 Live now. We will be wrapping up on the AEC Boateng gaffe and then move on to the Cocoa Board situation, but I will take some messages and then go back to the panel for their last words on this particular matter. Kofi Boateng in East Legon says, good morning, Abna. His Excellency AEC Boateng should do the honorable thing by resigning to save his hard-earned reputation. The show of bravado and ego after the leaked comments has in itself undermined his apology. Let's be mindful of the fact that it was a forum with the media present and he went ahead to make those statements. He must be shown the exit by the president. The honorable man has apologized for what he said to Ghanaians, and for that matter, let's accept it and let sleeping dogs lie. That's Salifu from Gambaga. Dr. Aaron Chakrade says what Mr. AEC said is immature and I'm highly disappointed. I guess Mr. President should advise some of his cabinet members. Abner, good morning. My name is Samuel Yeboah from Tema Community 5. He says, in as much as the comments of Mr. AEC Boateng is condemnable, I think the minority is blowing it out of proportion. There is no perfect man, and I think sometimes they need to slow down in the way they condemn officials who make unpleasant comments, especially looking at the way they are quick to defend former NDC officials who are alleged to have engaged in corrupt practices. Good morning, Abner. It's unfortunate for an elderly man like Mr. AEC Boateng to come out with such a divisive comment. It tells you how this country has finally gotten to, where this country has finally gotten to, and see the NPP is behaving like the NDC in power because they seem to defend anything bad their people do. They should continue. Ghanaians are watching. That's a caution from Kobe in Kumasi. Thank you for your messages. Please keep sending them through. We'll be reading them as we go. But before we go on to look at the Cocoa Board allegations that were put out by the CEO this week, I would want to have your last, views on this as we move on. Prof, let me hear you on this.
Abena, in our neighborhood, politics is a game of promises on the part of the politician and then expectations and perceptions on the part of the people who are doing the election. It's as simple as that. They make a lot of promises before the elections, make a lot of promises during the elections, and make a lot of promises after elections. What His Excellency said is part of the promises again. it's up to the electorate to have the expectations. Yes, it's true. It's not only a preview of the NPP. All politicians across all political landscape make promises, make those utterances. Some of them say it in private. Let's not deceive ourselves. They do that. Because how can you promise people to vote for you and then after the election you don't deliver? You keep on promising them. That is exactly what the guy is saying. We will take care of you. If we're NDC people who are in power, they will never say this. Sorry, NDC, you'll be saying the same thing. We know that's the reality on the ground. Unfortunately, that is the situation. Now, for this particular guy, what they have done, he has apologized, as I said, that's fine. But it came too late. It's up to the president to make a decision. And also, it's not about, you see, my colleague said it's speculation. Of course, it's educated speculation. No question about that in my mind. If he was not, if it's not pressure from his colleagues, but certainly pressure from Ghanaians, that look, you might do something about it. It's educated speculation. Sometimes you must speculate, getting information on the ground. It's very clear that he didn't do this immediately. Something happened, something intervened before he did it. Part of that is pressure.
Very well. Mr. Adekoka,
yeah, I agree with Clarissa that that's not the best for a country to engage in politicking. But unfortunately, like Prof said, here we are. We are faced with this, which is a reality. And it is only somebody who doesn't want to say the truth come and say that that's not the thinking of across the political spectrum, that you need to satisfy your support base. Because when you go out there, they confront you with it. But probably he should have asked all telephones and cameras to go out of the room when he was making that statement, because he was talking to his base, right? Unfortunately, it came out. But that's the reality on the ground. And going forward, I wish my sister here one day come to the fray, and I'm sure when she goes to stand in front of the people and see the mood of the people, you voted for you and they made you ambassador. Sometimes you hear, oh, look, he has come, he's made ambassador, he's come to tell us stories. And then you hear that whisper in your ears, the thing that you came to talk about, you immediately throw that away and say, oh, don't worry, the job is coming. IMF says the job shouldn't come, but it's coming. You know, unfortunately, that is what he did. So it's up to the president. Once that has come in the open, I want to know whether that is the thinking of the president. If he represents the president, is that the thinking of the president? If not, His Excellency, I'm sure this morning either he's watching or somebody is watching, for him to quickly come out and tell us something.
Very well. Clara.
Okay. For me, I think that, yes, if we are saying that this is the reality that we have, it only shows one thing, that we've lost our way. We've lost our way from the fundamental values that hold us together as a people. And if we have lost our way, I think it is defeatist and cowardice on our part to just throw up our hands and say that, well, this is where we are, so this is where we are going to be. I think we have to trace our way back to our fundamental values. I understand the difficulties that politicians face when they have to deal with their political parties. But if I were in the fray, as you said, what I would do or encourage political parties to do is that you have to be creative. I always say that the times that we have to be creative. You have to be able to distinguish the role of the national role from the political role and get your supporters to understand that. It also means that as a party, you do have to come together to see how, as a party, you can work to take care of your base in certain situations. I think we also have to recognize that the youth that we have are very intelligent people. They are very creative people. What they may need is direction. If we give them the right direction and the right opportunity, we don't even need to give them any appointments. They will use their own brains and their own creativity and make so much for themselves. Anytime that I enter into, like, let's even say sometimes you go to the market and you see Ghanaians, you go to a place and you see Ghanaians, you see the way they brim with ability. The only thing where we have failed and where leadership has failed is to be able to channel the abilities that they exhibit. So I think for the youth, it is the proper leadership is, yes, I understand the role of party, let the party handle that, let the party come up with a way to handle that, but also you should be able to get to differentiate that these are national roles and these are national values that we subscribe to, and we cannot go below those, we cannot compromise on them. So I think politicians really have to start rethinking so that we find our way back to our fundamental values. But the current situation is not good enough. If we are saying that, okay, that's all we did, then I find it contradictory that we are asking him to resign.
Exactly.
If what he says is what we all believe, so we are saying he should resign for being honest.
I've just told you.
That's the point. That's the point. It's a double standard.
Exactly. It's double standards. We are saying that, well, that's what we believe, but you because you have been honest, you resign.
I said that
he's a better person than the rest of us. If that is the way we think, he is a better person. He's honest.
That's why I said earlier on that if that is his belief, then there's no need for him to apologize.
But anyways, let me have Rahula here. Finalize, yes, this one, and then we go on.
Finally, I think that it must be stated clearly that it is not wrong for political appointees to engage a partisan audience.
You did say that, yeah.
That's very, very necessary. Secondly, it is also important that public officials uphold and defend the Constitution, so that what the Constitution prohibits, that they do not engage in that. Lastly, I would invoke the old adage that to err is human and to forgive is divine. To the extent that he has apologized, I think that we should allow the matter to rest.
Okay. On that note, we move on to another bubbling situation with the Cocoa Board. And that's one, I think when it comes to state agencies, departments and all that have been rocked with allegations of corruption, I think Cocoa Board tops the charts, seriously. Since January 7, when this government took office, there's been so many allegations coming out, allegations of corruption against public officials under the previous administration, a lot of issues coming out. And for me, my concern is, why is it always the case that these revelations come out when there's a change in government? I believe the Constitution has mechanisms such as, you know, the Auditor General's report and the PAC meetings and all of these things to bring such things to the fore even during the tenure of a particular government. But given how things have been practiced, we only find these things coming out after there's a change of government, and then, you know, there'll be pointing of fingers to certain individuals in previous administrations and all. We saw this week that Cocoa Board, the CEO of Cocoa Board, had a press conference apparently in response to some allegations that had been put out by the minority in Parliament in respect of Cocoa Board and how monies have been used or mismanaged or misused in the past. Now, I've been asking myself, and Clara, please take us away on this. To what end? We hear these allegations. We hear these allegations. So you're informing the citizenry. People allegedly stole your money. The public funds were mismanaged. Yet we don't see anything concretely in terms of attempts by government to recover monies that they say were for the, you know, state. Public funds have been siphoned. We hear of Ameri, for instance. Where is the Ameri situation taking us? There was the NCA. Where did that take us? The Cocoa Board. What is happening? How are we to see these information when they come out from, you know, government?
Okay. To be honest with you, when you said there have been allegations, I actually almost stopped listening, because the truth is I'm tired of hearing the allegations. I want to hear that we have discovered A, B, C, D. We think a wrong has been done, and these are the steps we have taken to hold the people who we believe have committed that wrong accountable. If you are not going to hold the people accountable, and by our rules, by our law, there's nothing we can do about it. So you just come and tell us, this is it, your money is gone, your money is gone. What are we supposed to do about that? So I think the role of leadership is to hold accountable. By holding accountable, if you find that something wrong has been done, or you believe something wrong has been done, we have the relevant procedures. So trigger the process. So what I really would love to hear is that we have found evidence or what we believe to be evidence of wrongdoing of A, of wrongdoing of B, and we are taking action. And then you update us on the action, the outcome of the action, or the various steps in the action. But mere allegations, we know what will happen. People accused will just come and deny the allegations, and then at the end of the day, what we are going to have is he said, she said, he said, she said, and then the public at the end of the day, because we don't have access to all of the information, may not even be able to make an informed conclusion as to whether or not a wrong has been done. There's a way of establishing wrong and holding accountable. So I think that's what we should do. I believe Ghanaians would love to know that at least they have leaders in place who are holding accountable people they believe to have done wrong to them as a people.
Very well. I mean, naturally, I would have, the next question perhaps would have been, okay, so what is government to do? But I don't think the inaction, or, well, seeming inaction, let me put it that way, is because government is not aware of what it's supposed to do, because I do believe that government knows what to do. It's just, for whatever reason, we are not seeing that action. But then, so to the citizenry, what is the citizenry to do, Prof?
What are we to do?
Consistently hearing these allegations?
That is what we're doing. We talk about it. You see,
to what end?
Well, what else can we do? We can't go march on the street and ask people to be arrested and thrown into jail. We have enough problems on our hands individually for us to be doing that. You see, even if you want to act, on what information are you going to act on? There are a lot of speculations here and there. When somebody talk, one of these guys talk, you say, hey, this is serious. And when the other guy talk, and you say, hey, which one is which? And somebody says somebody used money to build a bungalow for himself. Somebody said, no, the bungalow will be there since 1970-something. Sometimes you really must sit down to read these things and analyze them. And you see, the public don't really have, you see, we are in an information age. Information is flowing every minute. So, I think you said it. If these things are true, they are easy. They are figures. We can count. We can all count. You see, we can all count. If money is spent, it's easy for them to find out the money has been spent. For what purpose? There might be some documentation somewhere. You see, but the issue is that when politicians start to talk, you don't know which one is the truth. Because whatever one group says, the other group is going to come and what? Counter it. And then we, the ordinary people, we get confused. So what do? We start continuing to be confused. We say all kinds of things, words and phrases, and then something comes in, and then we move on. That's exactly what is happening. So on this cocoa board issue, yes, we hear a lot of cocoa board these days. Some time ago, we don't even know that cocoa board exists. Every day cocoa board, every day cocoa board. It means that there's something there. But we still are not getting to it. We are not being told what exactly is the issue. So it's one of those things. We will continue debating it and give it a week or two. We'll move on to another issue council. As I'm sitting here, I don't know exactly what the facts are.
And you know, the speech by the CEO,
yes.
In his introduction, he sought to suggest that, yes, of course, he preempted the reaction from Ghanaians, because yes. This isn't the first time we are saying enough of the allegations, let's see some action. So he prefixed his his statement by saying this. Let me just, he says, I've had the opportunity to interact with some of you since assuming office as chief executive, and this is to the media, at different fora and at my office. But I have resisted the temptation of discussing the details of what myself and my team inherited as managers of Ghana Cocoa Board. So here, you get the sense that, yes, they've been sitting on something and they've been, you know, resisting the temptation to come out. But the point is it for you to come out to tell us, or for you to act on it conclusively in such a way that inures to the benefit of the people? And that is something that I found interesting here. So yes, you're trying to say you wouldn't have come out normally or typically, but because you've had, you know, agitations coming from the other side, you now have to come out and make the statement. And then he goes on to make the statement. So question is, like Clara said, get your act together. Let's see some traction in the pursuit of, or the recovery of, monies that you are alleging should be recovered.
Good. So the same guy, that's Joseph Bohin Idol, is that correct? He said a lot of things, and then he concluded. Dr. Opuni, that is the former chief, left behind 19.6 billion debt for the cocoa board. That's the figure, 19.6. We can all read. Is this true? Do we have auditors? If this can be proven that yes, it's true, the former chief executive left behind 19.6 billion Ghana cedis. We can check it out. We, the ordinary people, cannot check it out. There are people we employ who check things out. When they check it out and they say it's true, then certainly we'll ask the follow-up question, what are you going to do about it? But as you sit now, when you ask the opposition, they will say, this is not true. They also throw their figures. You see, so everybody throwing dust in our face. It takes a while. So probably we need to carry a bucket of water every time we clean our face and say, what the hell are these guys talking about? Now, the chief executive said the previous guy left behind 19.6 billion debt. I think the journalist should have asked him, what are you going to do about it? If this is true, are you going to arrest? Are you going to get him arrested? Are you going to do something to recover the money? I was not there. I don't know what the journalist asked him. So it's not enough for him to come and tell us that this other guy left behind a debt of 90.6 million. Why are you telling us? For us to go and arrest him? Certainly you must tell us what is the government of today going to do about it, if it is true. Everybody throw that in there, and then the other guys show up and say, hey, it's not true. We didn't leave no debt. Then they keep arguing. At the end of the day, as you ask, we the ordinary people, we sit down listening, and we get confused. So for me, for all these allegations, which are figures, it's very easy for us to check it out. Somebody might check it out, and when they check it out, and these people announcing it, should not come and tell us. They should tell us what are they going to do about it. In fact, before that, they said this is how we came by this figure. Okay? The Auditor General check it out. This guy check it out. I'm not just making this up. I'm not politicking. Here is the figure. And that's all. We are going ahead to pursue this guy to refund his money. But they will not say that. They will just leave it that, hey, this money is missing, and leave it down there, and expect us to ask, so what are we going to do about it? So for me, that's the problem. And there's a lot of that in the system. And it's actually become very active now. I don't know the president is against corruption. He's doing everything possible so that we don't have a corrupt government this time around, which I say I'm a bit skeptical. He himself may be incorruptible, but I want to live to see the day where a Ghanaian government, at the end of the 4 years, they say that we run a corruption-free government. I'm not saying that. Last time when I made this point here, the minister said that miracles will happen. I like that I use the word miracle. So, but at the end of the day, it's very important that these figures quoted, they must be verified, and if it's true, they must tell us what are they going to do about it. Right.
Sure. Rohula, then now tell us, what is the way forward here? Allegations upon allegations, little or no, action in terms of recovery?
No, there certainly would be
action. You're waiting for the Office of the Special Prosecutor to be established.
For both recovery and for both criminal prosecutions. Yes. We're going to do both. There's absolutely no doubt about that. We do not want to engage in incompetent prosecutions, as we witness under the NDC. I mean, between the period 2001 and 2008, the refrain was that the Kufuor government was corrupt. Following their victory in December 2008 and between January 2009 and 2016, the NDC was unable to successfully convict one official of the Kufuor administration to prove a point that indeed their allegations of corruption were true. We want to do things differently, and knowing the president and knowing that as Attorney General he successfully mounted
still doing the same thing they did, which is putting out allegations out there,
Well, it is important to let the Ghanaian people know
that
the state of affairs as we inherited it on the 7th of January 2017. There's absolutely nothing wrong in letting the Ghanaian people know what we have come to inherit. And basically, that is what we're doing.
But this information you put out, which is categorically denied. So how is that helping the Ghanaians decide that, yes, this is indeed the state of affairs?
The minority is yet to refute the issues raised in the press conference by the CEO. They're yet to do that. The office of former President Mahama has responded to part of the claims made by the, in fact, and the available documents rather show that the office of former President Mahama did not get their facts right. Abena, on what basis would Cocoa Board, for example, spend millions of dollars to construct 50,000 metric tons of warehouse in Tema, when their own assessment,
these are all allegations
when their
at
own
this point,
assessment report showed that Cocoa Board had sufficient warehouses in Tema to sustain its operations for several years to come? On what basis was it financially prudent to demolish housing of staff that, on the basis of their own technical report, were in excellent condition? They went ahead to demolish these houses and to re-award a contract for the rebuilding of same houses for $24 million. The Ghanaian people should be told why such decisions, because it cannot by any stretch be financial prudence. That haven't done an assessment of your staff housing, you came to the conclusion that the houses were in excellent condition, yet you went ahead to award a contract to demolish these houses and to rebuild same. There must be some ulterior motive behind these things. He made a very important revelation that I believe we should avert our minds to. And for me, that is the single most important revelation that we are not talking about. That on December 20, 2016, after the NDC monumentally lost the December elections, they went ahead to withdraw over $400 million.
But these are all allegations.
They did not spend the money to procure cocoa beans. They did not spend the money on cocoa farmers, yet nobody can trace the whereabouts of these $400 million. You know how much we are spending to provide free secondary education? 400 million Ghana cedis. In the next budget, we are hoping to spend about $1 billion.
And $400 million
is sufficient to do
Edu
this.
has been sitting on this information for the past
Yes, he's not sitting on them.
10 months. What is being done?
This information
that
is being
what
investigated.
many
And
people are asking.
I made the point that we do not want to engage in incompetent prosecution.
But you seem to be so sure with these facts you're putting out.
Absolutely. And those,
then why
the
don't you move
security,
on?
the investigative outfits of the state are going down and digging and gathering all the facts to enable us, first of all, recover these monies and successfully prosecute. Because it doesn't make sense to prosecute individuals. So
you're saying you're still
security
investigating.
agencies are acting on this information that we have uncovered, not just at Cocoa Board, many agencies of state. And I'm not surprised that President Rawlings, the founder of the NDC, said that President Akufo-Addo inherited the worst form of corruption. If you see the numbers in various agencies of state, the quantums of monies involved, and the fact that these monies cannot be traced, I mean, everybody should be concerned.
But Rahula, aren't you concerned as well that given these facts you're putting out, which seem you're so sure about these facts, which should pretty much put you in the way of, heading to court, for instance, but we haven't seen that happen. And when you say that the security agencies are investigating, then it presupposes that what you have is not conclusive yet, so putting it out there is also a bit preemptive.
You see, our approach to dealing with corruption is different. And we made a promise during the election that we were going to approach the fight against corruption differently. And we stated clearly that our modus operandi would be to set up the Office of Special Prosecutor to independently pursue acts of corruption. Because you see,
so you're waiting for the office to be established before you move on?
All the political actors have agreed that there's the need for us to do something about the prosecutorial powers of the Attorney General and Article 88. We've all agreed, the NDC, we have differed in what to do about these powers. While some have said that we needed to decouple the AG office from that of the Justice Ministry, we opted that there was a need for us to have a special prosecutor who would have a tenure of security and who would be independent from executive manipulation and interference, so that when that individual is prosecuting acts of corruption, we will not have the usual refrain, it's political witch hunt. They're doing this because they are NDC members. Because that prosecutor would be clothed with the power to investigate even allegations of corruption under the NPP
Please pause
government
on that and let me
them.
take Clara's view on this issue about waiting for the office of the special prosecutor to be established before we pursue. Are we saying that under our current regime, we cannot?
We can.
We can.
We can.
Yes. So, Clara, carry on for me.
No, there's nothing under, there's no hindrance in the legal regime that we currently run to be able to prosecute. The Attorney General has all the powers to act. So there's no legal hitch at all. It's a decision as to whether you want to prosecute or not. It's not. There's nothing about the legal regime. There's no problem with prosecution.
Right. So this thing about waiting for the office of the special prosecutor to be established before we pursue really is not so tenable then.
Well, I think that I said that it depends on the approach. You know that the same provision allows for the passage of a law to allow for certain prosecutions to take place. I think Article 885 or so, I cannot remember correctly. So once that law is passed, creating the office of the special prosecutor, because we say that over the years, the accusations against the office of the Attorney General has always been that it is engaged in political witch hunting. And so that has an effect in the state's quest to deal with acts of corruption. Now, we've all said, the NDC, the CPP, the PPP, we've all agreed that there's the urgent need to do something. It is the approach that we differ. Whereas the NDC and the PPP says that let us simply decouple the AG's office and make it truly independent. We say that we want to come with a special prosecutor who would have a 7-year tenure. That 7-year tenure would run through several regimes, and he would be clothed with the power. Because you see, the current arrangement, the deficiency in having the current arrangement is that the AG does not participate in the investigative processes. You get the point. The AG relies on investigative bodies like the CID, the BNI, IOCO, to do the work for the Attorney General to then prosecute. And so it becomes difficult to look out for evidence which would be admitted in court and evidence that would not be admitted in court. So at the end of the day, the AG does not participate directly.
So then
if
that is your position, then wherein lies the apprehension about the political influence brought to bear by the AG?
Let me tell you what the special prosecutor would do differently. Because this office would be clothed with the power to investigate, at the same time prosecute. So you have a special prosecutor who participates in the investigative processes and is able to gather evidence that, in his opinion, would be admitted by any court of competent jurisdiction. It makes it quite easier for the government to be able to successfully mount criminal prosecution. We certainly would pursue every single individual who has engaged in acts of corruption. And President Akufo-Addo is not going to negotiate on that. And he has made that very, very clear.
Well, we live to see. I mean, I will go around the table after Mr. Adekoka speaks and to take the views of the other panelists on this wait for the Office of the Special Prosecutor bill to be passed before we move on and all that. But to Mr. Adekoka, obviously I know you would have your own issues about this, but I want to ask a direct question here.
Yes.
I think Rohula alluded to that a bit in his submissions, which is, I find it striking that of all the allegations that were put out by the CEO, it was about an 8-pager statement he gave. The office of the former president found it prudent to only respond to the Creek Bolly guest house issue. Is that an admission that the other allegations are true, but just this one we have to deny? Because the president was mentioned in respect of a number of, allegations that the man put out. So why hone in or narrow in on the Bolly? For me, it comes across then as, okay, I have to respond to this because this is what I can deny. The others, do we take that?
That was what was specifically referred to him, that brother was put up for his comfort and that kind of thing. But before I come to that issue, I was listening to my brother here, and this lamentation has been going on since independence, since the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. You have to put this kind of lamentation into historical perspective. When Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown, there was all manner of allegations. He's taking gold bars here, he's stolen this, he has built Pedwasi Lodge for his comfort. See, I'm coming there. He's built Akosombo Dam for his comfort. He's built Tema Harbor for his comfort. I'm coming there. We left Kwame Nkrumah. Then we came to Buzia. Buzia had paid the salary 5 years advance. He has done that. Then we came to Achampo. Achampo has done that. He has given cars to women. He has done that. Look, for the past 50 years or so of our independence, every time a government takes over, we behave as if a coup has taken place. So the new government that comes in comes up allegations, and on the day, most of these things, when the commissions were set up, hardly did they find evidence to say that these people have done this or that and that. And they've lived their lives on. But what has happened was that they've been damaged over the years. I'm sure some of their children even carry these things on. Fast track, we are here again. He said when President Kufuor came, NDC came and said he has done that. Rawlings, yes, fast track. But look, you ask the question, for how long can you continue to be doing this to ourselves? For how long? I believe when the government comes, you've got your program. Stick to your program. Where you have found malfeasance, quickly deal with it. We are in 4th November, and on the 1st or 2nd November, Cocoa Board CEO comes to have a press conference, and he says that President Mahama stroke Oman, what's his name? What's the name of the CEO? Opuni. This is a state institution, Cocoa Board. They've got their board in place. They've got their chief executive, they've got their staff, they've got all the systems that insulates them from the presidency. They've got a procurement office, so that when they're going to do so, they have to go to do procurement. If the company finds that in their wisdom they have to build a warehouse, they put up a position paper, it goes through certain stages. Approval is a committee probably is set up. It goes to approval is given. It goes to the board. The board is not made of one person, but a group of people, and in their wisdom, we go and execute the projects. The government comes. So this government too goes, and then we come and we start investigating bust. We start investigating Ken Bond. We start investigating. Look, for how long can we as a nation continue to be doing this to ourselves? We come and have a president, spew the thing, and then we go and sit somewhere, and for months you come and tell me that you are waiting for special prosecutor. I'm not a lawyer, but we got 2 lawyers here. And you rightly said, since independence, our attorney generals have been clothed with the powers, even though they are appointed by a government of the day. They are clothed with powers to perform their duties. This country hasn't gone down the drain, hasn't collapsed because an attorney general is not being effective. But for me, what we are doing to ourselves is what our forebears did, and we copied and we continue. So Clarissa is asking, what about the youth of today? The youth of today too are watching. And then when they come, they will continue from where we left off from Kwame Nkrumah. We have come of age, and we are doing what our forefathers did to those governments, and we are doing the same thing today. If you've got the evidence, why do you make a press conference? Like the professor said, Proceed to court. The man has left you 19.6 what? Billion, whatever it is. In the press statement, give me the breakdown. 1 billion was for this. The money, he's telling us here that they can't find $400 million. It's just, it didn't go through any bank. They went to Cocoa Board and carried the $400 million, the basket and the box, and went away.
What it was used for? What's they're saying?
Yeah, so when we are making that statement, you would have said the $400 million which was taken on 16th of December or wherever it is, right? There must be an accountant there who signed the check, was the board chairman or whoever signed it. And the check probably went through Unibank or Bank of Ghana, and the money was collected, or several checks were written, and Abine's name can be found on one of the checks. I mean, we come and spew these kind of things, and we, the unintelligent people, that they think we are.
Well, he did mention that it was the drawdown was effected on 20th December 2016.
Yeah, I'm just asked you. Look, you're a lawyer. My sister too is a lawyer, professor. Who, I mean, at 400 million, and when you were drawing the money, nobody saw what the money. When the money just vanished and went to an account in UK or went to an account in Dubai or where, didn't it pass through a certain channel, a banking system? So when you're making that statement, you have a position paper on it and say this is what they use the money for. I believe that it's come to a time that people in a position of authority should be seen to be doing the right thing and not spoiling the reputation of people. Police in Ghana here, this man has been vilified for so long, since 7th of January, when he was asked to proceed on leave of terminate appointment within 24 hours. Up to now, all the things that they claim here, so they can't find even one charge, just one, to bring him to court. And then you're going to accuse the president, Mahama, of what? Them building a house, and we find that Cocoa Board itself has got all over the country guest houses where they use on commercial basis, where you go and rent and pay. It's not for free. I was in the manager of that one of your sister stations went there to interview the manager. So this man has been here, we rent it, people come and we are doing extension.
No, but that's fine, Mr. Aliko, sorry to cut you, but yes, the allegations have been thrown out there. We are asking questions, what follows next? Those are legitimate questions. But let's not also lose sight of the fact that in there, all those allegations are real issues that are being asked and issues that are of concern to Ghanaians when it comes to issues about the financial and operational prudence, because you're talking about cocoa money. The people, you understand? So indeed, yes, those questions are also worthy of being, considered. In as much as we're concerned about the fact that yes, consistently we are having these allegations, but no follow-throughs.
I just made a statement that it's a state institution. They've got procedures that they operate with. So if that procedure is faulty, you deal with the institution. That's why they are there. They've got their rules and regulations. The chief executive doesn't just get up and then write a check and say, go and do this. You have a system. Maybe you have a procurement office, you have an accountant, you have management who have to take that decision and then bring that decision to the board for board approval. That is why we put our boards. I've been a board chairman before, and the management will bring, we are going to do the action. Have you done your procurement? Has it gone through the procurement mechanism? They tell me yes. If it's sole sourcing, have you written a procurement? And they said yes. We look at the evidence that they put before us. We seek technical advice if we need to. And if they say, fine, approve it, we approve it. Then when another government can come to Adekoka, when you do that decision, was it prudent or not? One question I asked him. At that material moment of time.
You should deal with it.
At that material moment of time, when it confronted me, that was the decision I took. Okay. That is it. So you continue. But when we come and say, was it prudent for him to take that decision? At that time, at that material moment of time, the evidence that was made available needed that a warehouse must be put up. And the management said we are going to put up a warehouse. So, committee, come and go and find out whether it is prudent. We are going to knock out the buildings, the old stuff, and put up new modern buildings. Maybe that place is infested. You can see the building standing there, but it's infested with maggots. For Christ's sake. So management go and then another government come and say, hey, why did you take that decision? So currently, this government should not take decisions, because somebody will come and say the decision they are taking today was wrong. And that's why I'm saying continually, we are always on this trajectory and then doing this and then accusing ourselves, and everybody will come and will contact. I gave you from Kwame Nkrumah, Kankanyami, and when Kwame Nkrumah, we went there was no Kankanyami. But they made us all believe that Kwame Nkrumah had the Kankanyami in Flagstaff House now, that at that time, that every day he goes to worship. That's what we are doing today, the same thing. It hasn't changed. I saw it. It hasn't changed.
Very well. Let me move quickly to Prof here. I mean, Prof, for me, what I'm taking from this whole discussion is, or what I'm seeing clearly here is the, if you like, failure of institutions or accountability mechanisms that we have. Because listening to Mr. Adikoka, you know, and indeed around the table, what we are getting is that when there's a change of government, then we have these things coming out. But I don't think accountability mechanisms designed in our, you know, if you like, democratic space are to be triggered only after a change of government. Accountability mechanisms keep running, and that's the whole essence of these mechanisms, to put duty bearers in check. So is it a case that we have, these institutions have been, you know, jeopardized to such extent that we are losing our way? I talked about the PAC, for instance, the Public Accounts Committee, and indeed this is a mechanism that should help us bring, you know, public officials who go wayward to check. The Auditor General has the powers to surcharge such public officials, and indeed we know of the Occupy Ghana recent feat in the Supreme Court, where the court actually, you know, confirmed what is already written in text, that the Auditor General has the powers to do all those things that he's supposed to do, including surcharging public officials who are found to have squandered monies here and there. Is it the case that these institutions or these mechanisms have failed? Well,
I will not know, but the indication is that there's something wrong somewhere, that we had to wait for the change of government before we hear about these things. I recall when the Atamia's government took over from the Kufuor's government. No, first, when Kufuor took over from Rawlings' government, there was this issue about selling of cars for cheap. That was Jacob Beji listed all kind of cars, and people took cars, pay cheap for it. It was a big issue for a long time. Then it fizzled out. There were also other acquisitions, then it fizzled out. When the Atamia's people also show up, they also blame a couple of things. Like, for example, the Ghana 50 celebration. They say people stole money, they stole land. We heard all these things. Then after some time, it fizzled out. You recall, one of the bone of contention between Rawlings and Atamia's is that they say Rawlings wants Atamia's to pursue these people. Now they pursue the MPP people. And Atamia is a bit soft on them. Is that what I mean? Rawlings say you're not chasing the people. So which means that Rawlings also at that time also is under an impression that the previous government did something bad and Atamia was not forceful enough. So that's gone. Now, MPP have taken over from what? Mahama. We are hearing the same thing again. You see, it's unfortunate. But again, as we said earlier on in the other issue, that is the reality of our situation. Sometimes these informations are used to play politics. They are used to play politics. When we come into power, We will say that you guys stole this, you guys did this, you guys siphoned this money, and then leave it there. But you've caused some damage if you don't bring it to closure. Every journey must have some destination. So now, the chief executive of the Cocoa Board said, I didn't just show up. I took my time to get information. Now I'm ready to tell people of Ghana that this and this happened. You see, I didn't just show up here. I have done my work. I've done my due diligence, and this is what I've seen. $90-something billion Ghana city is vanished, is misappropriated, something like that. So what we should ask him, like I said already, what are you going to do about it? So that it doesn't sound like before. At the very beginning, the first year, get it to probably the first one and a half year, you make all kind of acquisitions, and then before you know, the next election is coming, you get yourself busy, then everybody forgot about all those acquisitions. These have happened during the Kufuor regime. These have happened during the Atamir regime. Is that correct? Mahama took over from Atamir, so you couldn't have been accusing the Atamir's regime. Now, when there's a change of party as a government, these things happen. So for me, it's not good enough to say that we've got evidence, we are waiting for something else. What are you waiting for? You must proceed and tell us where's the end of the road for you. Is it the beginning of the road? Are we in the middle of it? Now, the chief executive should have told us, now that I've got this information, we are proceeding to the next stage. Because I think Ghanaians have heard this over and over.
Indeed, let me add to that. You do recall earlier on in the year, I believe that was in May, there was a thing about the National Communications Authority where there was an allegation that some security gadget had been purchased and there was some
that TV and the goods.
We were told that there had been confessions.
Yes, there have been confessions.
Confessions.
So?
That there had been confessions. And the question, my thing is, if indeed you're saying there has been confessions, you have gone beyond, you know, allegations then, because this person is on record to have confessed.
Yes.
What stops you then from acting is a point. So you were asking if you are investigating, proceed to court. Then you investigate, you get to the point of a confession, yet you're sitting pretty.
And then simply put it, I said it happened before. We hear these things in the very beginning of every government, NDC, MPP. It's always when there's a change of government, and a change of government is a change of party. It happens. You go back. They're all there. So you talk about the NCA case. You talk about the Ghana Standard Board case. There are a lot of issues that these people stole money, they pocketed money. We are still waiting. When are these people going to be, brought to book? So for me, these things are allegations. They are serious allegations. If it is true, it's serious. If it's not true, it's also serious. So these people to tell us where is the end of the road for them. So it's not enough now. These people have been called power for almost a year now. It's not enough to just come and throw this in. You see, before they were not in government, so they can say we suspect that these NDC people are stealing money, but we have not seen the books yet. When we see the books, we can give you fact. I think almost a year, I think they've seen the books. Now the Ghanaian people should demand, when you see these things, bring the people to court. Get the money back. Then you move on to the next one. So, but the city, don't worry, we are incorruptible government, we are going to face it, we are still waiting. So for me, it's a bit of a disappointment at this stage that we are still throwing allegations without actually going for closure and get our money for us.
Thank you, Prof. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we have Clara's views and Rohela's views, and then we move on to look at the Fulani headsmen clashes with host communities and how far how close we are getting to finding lasting solutions to that security issue. You're watching and listening to New Day Saturday edition. We will be right back.
Streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3newsgh and at 3sportsgh. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3 News GH for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3 News GH and at 3 Sports GH. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3 GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3newsgh for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3newsgh and at 3sportsgh. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3newsgh for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3newsgh and at 3sportsgh. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3newsgh for live streaming and comments on our page. Like and follow us on Twitter at 3newsgh and at 3sportsgh. Like our pictures on Instagram, TV3 Network. If you missed our live shows, watch a playback on YouTube, TV3GH. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. Log on to www.3news.com for more news and updates of our major stories. Join us on Facebook 3newsgh for live streaming and comments on our page.
Welcome back. You're watching and listening to New Day Saturday Edition live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, and we're streaming live on the internet at 3news.com, also on YouTube on TV3live.com. We'll be wrapping up on the cocoa board issues and move on to look at the Fulani herdsmen situation with the host communities and the clashes that have been ensuing in different parts of the country. But before that, I will take some messages and go back to the panel for their concluding remarks. This one is coming in from, okay, you didn't state your name here, but you're saying, good morning, Abner. Politicians here in Ghana behave as though there's no judgment day, but Allah Almighty is watching all and will reward everyone according to his or her deeds. Good morning, Abna. Will be surprised as a person if this administration fails to imprison Dr. Opuni, the former CEO of Cocoa Board. And your reasons are that he said, what the current administration has made me understand is that Dr. Opuni only went to Cocoa Board to collapse the state institution. The politicking of all issues is becoming too much. The Akufo-Addo-led administration should make Ghanaians proud by making Ghana work as we know them to be. Ghanaians voted the NDC out because we knew these rots were going on. What we want is not for them to re-echo them to us, but act on them. Our courts are there. Some processes can be started before the special prosecutor comes to play. If they are not going to court, they should work and wait till the prosecutor comes, not to play the music we danced to in 2016, that is Parkwesi. Good morning to you, Abna, and your panel. In fact, all these wild allegations being leveled against the past administration by this government are just argumentative statements that cannot, that cannot be based on facts, particularly the recent one by the CEO of Cocoa Board. Upon assumption of office for some months now, he has been for, I'm not sure, I think I'm messing this up. Okay, too bad. But he says, indeed, their incompetence is now showing, and I leave it to the people of this country to judge the NPP come 2020. That's Alhaji Abdul Razak from WA. My problem is the attempt by some people to rationalize the wicked and, it says, wicked agenda of the NPP government. It's unthinkable for the High Commissioner of our country to be making such utterances and still defending it in the media. President Akufo-Addo should know that since South Africans have been engaging in xenophobic attacks, and as such, a character can never be relied upon by ordinary Ghanaians in South Africa. That's AC. He says AC Boate must be fired, and this is Karim Zito in Asante Mampong. AU Farouk in Tamale says, good morning. Shame on to NPP government for wanting to divert our minds from the mismanagement of state funds they created at the Cocoa Board. But NPP and Cocoa Board CEO can't paint the former president black. Their misdealings at the cocoa board will be exposed every day. Let me take the last one here. It says, the good people of Bole do not deserve the cocoa board building according to the NPP. Okay, no. I mean, really, to be fair, I don't think that is the essence of, that isn't what the CEO was saying. They were looking at, you know, prudent use of public funds, and that is in no way to suggest that the people of Bole do not deserve good things. I think we should get that straight. Now, let me go to Clara, and then we'll come to you. Clara, your concluding remarks on this cocoa board situation. How do we ensure accountability moving forward, you know, holding duty bearers to account?
I think that we have two ways. One is to, the most important is to prevent it in the first place. We have our institutions, we have laws that are supposed to hold in check a lot of the situations. So we should focus on preventing it. There's no point in letting the money get lost and then chasing after it. The most important thing is to prevent it from getting lost. And I think we have enough laws that can do this, including Parliament. I always say that every year public institutions bring their budgets to Parliament to look at and to pass and all of that. And every year, Parliament makes recommendations as to what has been done wrong and what has been done right. What about enforcing it? If an institution brings a budget that they cannot support, don't pass it. There's no point in throwing up your hands in the air, or what has become the norm is just to complain and just write. It's just recommendations. These are observations. We are not supposed to observe and leave it at that. We are supposed to observe and correct and prevent. Right. So we must insist, I think at this stage, Ghanaians should insist on the prevention bit, so that then after the prevention, if we are not able to succeed in preventing it and then it is taken, we have to go after it. But after going after whoever embezzled the money, we must also go after the person whose duty it was to ensure that the money didn't get lost and that person didn't do that duty. I think that's the only way that we can address this. But if all we are going to do is wait for a change of government for us to come and say this money is missing and that money is missing and then go back to sleep, then after that we wait for another change in government, I think Ghanaians are tired of that. What we want is that we don't want our money to go missing in the first place. So stop it from happening. And if you are not able to stop it from happening, definitely go after it. And after going after it, also deal with the person whose neglect of duty allowed that to happen.
Very well. Rahula.
The impression I gathered from Chairman's submission is that we raise issues of corruption after every change in regime, and that we've been doing so since Nkrumah. The impression I get is that, okay, so it's enough, we're tired, let's go. I do not think that
we should get on with it. Let's get things done. Let's change.
So long as politicians who are entrusted with the responsibility of protecting the taxpayer's CD cannot fulfill this responsibility, we must at every material moment go after them, whether they are NPP or the NDC. If the NDC would use the NDC officials who use their party ID cards as an insurance against the prosecution of crime, it must take the NPP to go after them. If NPP members would use their membership card as an insurance against prosecution of crime, eventually, if we're voted out, the next government must go after us. Because we cannot say that we've been doing this since 1957, therefore we are tired, and therefore what?
Let's do things differently. Let's make sure we get, we are able to achieve results. We pursue and
now you're saying we do things differently. Eguvado says the best possible way and the legally sustainable way is to have a special prosecutor whose tenure is not dependent on a sitting president. Because we cannot do things differently with this current arrangement.
And the president appoints the AG, an office holder whose independence is not even guaranteed, because as it is now.
The NDC government comes in future, appoints a different AG, then on the basis of the appointment, he or she protects NDC members who engage in acts of corruption. But if we have a special prosecutor whose tenure runs into different administrations and who is clothed with the power to investigate, we will not have a situation where we'll have to wait for a change in government before we deal with issues of corruption. Lastly, I want to assure everybody that President Akufo-Addo is committed to the fight against corruption. It is not accurate to say that politicians put out this information to deliberately tarnish the image of their opponents and to allow the information to fizzle out. At least the evidence under Akufo showed clearly that that is not the attitude of every politician. Indeed, between 2001 and 2008, we successfully prosecuted NDC officials for allegations of corruption. Indeed, the Mahama Mills government attempted that, but they were unsuccessful. So what that tells us is that it is not accurate to say that politicians come to power, then put out information and allow the information to fizzle out. Akufo-Addo is determined to go after every single individual who has siphoned public funds, whether they are NDC members or they are NPP members, because he believes that we must bring an end to corruption in this country. If we cannot eradicate it completely, we must minimize it.
Very well. I'm looking forward to a day when such allegations will be made and actually prosecuted during a particular term of the government. You know, so you see it happening. You don't see it only after there's a change of government. But that's fine. I guess the conversation will keep on going, and hopefully we find some lasting solutions to this. But that takes us also into the discussion about the clashes, violent clashes, I must say, in respect of Fulani herdsmen and the host communities. And this is something that has been happening for the longest time. The only difference is that it keeps escalating with every passing year. We see the levels of violence, you know, enhanced year in, year out, and we are caught with you know, we seem not to know what to do conclusively with this situation. And this week we heard of reports in the Kwewu district. Some deaths have been reported. What are we to do? There's talk about Operation Cowleg, maybe Cowleg 3 or Cowleg 4. But obviously, that, for me, I don't think that's an option, because we know what happened with Cowleg 1, Cowleg 2, and Cowleg, you know, 3. How do we deal with this? Is it time that we changed, you know, the mode of cattle rearing or cattle herding in this part of the world? Or what? Ruhula, start us off.
Admittedly, our approach to dealing with conflicts as a country has never been the best.
Ad hoc.
I mean, ad hoc, firefighting approach. We wait when there are tensions, then we move in. I mean, it's not just about Fulani, whether it has to do with chieftaincy, political, you know, issues of Fulani herdsmen. That attitude of always adopting a firefighting approach has proved ineffective, and that is about time we change approach. As far as the Fulani issue is concerned,
but change approach to conflict resolution. But how do we deal with, you know, preventing the conflict in the first place?
Yes, because you see, my view has always been that the potency of the law in dealing with individual misconduct anywhere in the world has never been in doubt. So when you are confronted with issues like this, the more sustainable way of dealing with it is to employ the law. Not Operation Cowleg, not the firefighting approach, because all of these things have not been able to address it. The best way now is to resort to the law. In 2006, the Ministry of Interior had set up an early warning committee to be able to preempt these things and to prompt the ministry to respond. The committee made a very important proposal that we have all abandoned. 2006, I believe if we were done that in 2006, 2007, we would not be where we are today. The committee proposed the acquisition of land banks. Okay, so that you have areas where the state has control, and then you backed it up with ranching legislation, or what the experts call grazing permits. you have data of cattle owners, whether they are indigenous or they are foreign. And you have data of those who herd the cattle. Because it is not in every case that the owners are themselves those who herd. Sometimes they hire the Fulani people.
Yeah, more often than not, they're not, yeah.
Okay, so you have a data of all of these people. Fortunately, we are in a sophisticated technological era where you can even have biometric data of all these people to make it easier for people to track them. Once you have these mechanisms in place, you are able to regulate, first of all, where these animals are allowed to graze. And no cattle owner would have his or her animals grazed without a grazing
So what
permit.
happened to that plan?
That has not been done. And for me, I think that that is what we should go back to. Because what we have done so far have shown clearly that the mechanisms we have adopted cannot deal with the menace. For us to bring an end to it, we must resort to the law. If there is a need for us to have a legislation, okay, which also enables the assemblies to acquire areas and permits people to take their cattle to those areas to do it, will do a number of things. One, it will ensure that we regulate it. Two, it will increase revenue for the district assemblies. And three, it would ensure peace and stability in areas where these animals are reared. I believe that is the more sustainable way of dealing with this matter.
Right. I would pick on something you said here, which has to do with the early warning system you're talking about and the plan to have that banked arrangement. Because, I mean, there's a whole lot of scholarly material on this issue. There's so many literature, so much literature out there when you're trying to understand this whole, you know, relationship between the herdsmen and their host communities. But one thing that I found, you know, a common thread in all of this is this acknowledgement that, you know, let me see, I have it somewhere here, that the suggestion that livestock mobility or movement is an essential part of the way of life of the pastoral environment. So it's as if we've come to admit that, yes, we can't do cattle herding or rearing without the cattle moving around. But clearly that cannot be the case, because there are other, I mean, it's cattle rearing or herding is not only peculiar to Ghana and indeed West Africa. There are other parts of the world that have this going on, but you don't see cattle running in the streets in urban areas and all of that. They are banked, like you're saying. So what is it about our system that is preventing us from going that way, but always resorting to this mobility issue to the extent that there's an ECOWAS protocol on transhumans, so that you have this channel where cattle are moving from wherever coming through, where we have to live with such an arrangement. Mr. Dekoka.
Yeah, now, what are the best practices? You rightly say so. Other countries, they also have cattle with the rear. I'm just coming from Belarus, where I went to a cattle ranch, and it's orderly. You can see here, if you go to Nima, just around the corner.
They'll be in traffic with you.
They'll be in traffic with you. You know, we've lost it again. Here too, we've lost it. I mean, how can somebody bring cattle from Burkina Faso? You say it's grazing all the... Who is the owner of the cattle? How does the owner know that this cattle has left Burkina Faso and has come all the way through Paga or wherever it is, all the way to Kou, all the way? No.
Looking for pasture.
How? And how do they go back again? So the owner, for 2, 3, 4, 5 months, does not find his cattle and he goes to sleep. No, we've lost it. You know, in the case of Kou, are the owners of the cattle. Who are the owners of the cattle? They are Ghanaians. When you go and research, the owners of the... I know a few friends of mine who have those kind of cattle. You know? So, like my brother said, we must have an agriculture policy. That is it. These things, you don't allow them just to be moving helter-skelter. There must be a policy. Agricultural policy. Everywhere in the country, you want to rear cattle, like you said, this place is designated for cattle rearing. Period. Mostly, we tend to say that cattle rears up north. At least when I'm a man of history, so I can go back again and say, when Kwame Nkrumah put up the what do you call it, the factory, the corn beef factory, whatever it is. No, what was in Bolga? That shows you that they didn't come to Accra and put up a fight because Accra is full of sea and
one
fish.
district, one factory kind of area.
When you come to Accra, talk about fish. So you realize that the northern area is a very good area to put that. So we should have ensured that we kept that policy moving. Occasionally, one or two people can engage it locally in a localized manner. Our failure to have done that has led us to people now say, even ECOWAS protocol, allowing people to come and graze, and I don't know when they go back. When they come, they don't go back. Because probably the grass here is more...
that's the point.
Exactly.
So it's not for nothing that there's that arrangement. The whole idea is they need to move to find pasture, water, and all of that. So the question is, why don't we get, like Ruhula mentioned in the example he gave with the early warning system and the plan to have them banged in an area?
They shouldn't. Why should cattle from Burkina Faso they will come to Ghana? No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. They should stay there. That's the problem. Why should we allow that to happen? When you allow that is what the problem we're having now with Fulanis and that kind of thing. Because we have allowed them to come in, and they are conflicting with our local practices. So the bottom line is that what do? Most people, when they come for a long time, they become Ghanaians. So you can't even send them away. But they have their children here, and they stay, like you say, because they have to be moving, they become the nomads. So there must be a policy as to put an end to allowing people, cattle coming all the way from Burkina Faso through whatever it is, and then going to those kind of. So it's a matter of what policy have we got. And he narrated a policy which was put in place 2006. Let us go back to that policy, see how effective it is, and then see whether we can as a nation moving forward, can we put an end to those practices that, like we said earlier on, that are inimical to our progress. Every 1 month, 2 months, you hear somebody has been raped, somebody has been killed, somebody has done this, and it cannot continue to be. What is the policy? Let's put a policy, but I think that will resolve this issue. Yeah, right.
I would want to know why that policy you talked about was. I mean, we didn't get to see it, implemented fully. But Clara, help us with this. As I said, there's so much material on this, and again, another thing I found in there is a statement which says that throughout West Africa, Fulani are unique in preferring mobile cattle herding to farming on land of their own. And here again, the word preferring being the operative word. Can you imagine a world where we are all allowed to do what we prefer, what we would like to do, as against what you should do? And that's why we have laws to regulate human behavior, human activities. So isn't that it's a misconception we have that we cannot successfully rear cattle if we don't allow them to move? And so even in the face of all this distraction, all this havoc, we still allow them to move. We can't have ranching laws or, regulations that would ensure that they are situated in, some defined area.
Okay. Like you correctly said, Afna, the whole purpose of law is that the truth is we all prefer different things. We all have our preferences. But we have law to play the role of the minimum expectation, that no matter what we prefer, this is what we have to do. So when we have law governing something, you can't say that I don't prefer to comply with the law. Nobody has that option. Right. The law is clear, everybody has to comply. So I don't think the issue here, but like Rolila has already said, I think he summarized it. This thing has become like an annual ritual. Yep. Every year, we have this issue. Every year, we discuss this issue. And every year, the problem stays the same. Yep. So it's just like all we want to really do is talk about it. I don't think there is the lack of plans. I don't think there's a lack of data even. I don't think there's a lack of suggestions. I think there is only the lack of commitment to finding a sustainable solution to the problem. So I think we should be fair to ourselves. I think we should expect more from ourselves. So instead of waiting, because we know that next year
it will happen.
It will happen.
It works. It's like clockwork.
Yes, it will happen. So let's address the issue. Let's put some commitment. All the data that is in place, all the plans that are in place, all the laws that are in place, let us enforce it and then grant everybody the safety that they deserve. There are always competing interests. It is the law that will settle the competing
interests. Put everything in check. Right,
so
yes.
We have to. We just can't keep going on this way.
Business as usual, Prof.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm not pretty sure what the issue is. It may look obvious that some people take cattle on some people's land and they don't like it, and then they start to fight. I'm not sure whether that is what it is.
That's the issue.
That is the issue. I'm not pretty sure. There are a lot of questions than answers we are getting now. Otherwise, something cannot be happening every year, and then we do something.
We sit with it.
We do something about it. We know what is happening. We do something about it, but we don't sit to nail it down. Then we ask it to roll over to the next year. It happen again, unless we don't actually know what the issue is. Hence, we are just looking at the branches, not the root of it. So it's not clear to me. If anybody says, no, we know the issue, then do we need a permission from God to solve it? Which means that the issue is not clear. Now, who owns this cattle?
Yes.
Is it Ghana people's cattle? Is the cattle, are they really from Burkina Faso? Or the Burkina Faso people sold it to Ghanaians? Do we know who owns the cattle? Is it true that the cattle is travel all the way from Burkina to Kwaulan to come and eat their grass? I'm not clear. Now, if it is that the cattle belong to Ghanaians and they use that place as their grazing land, we can know what to do about that. Now, cattle always want to move from place to place.
So now it's the animal that wants to move, not who wants the animals to move.
Yes, people are the people who are moving them. Then, if you don't want the animal to be at a particular place, you cannot go there and say, stop, don't come. That one is become a law and order issue. You need a whole battalion of army to tell the Fulani you cannot come. Fulani don't read law, eh? They don't read laws. Okay? They don't know, they may not even know the law.
But you don't have to read the law to be...
Yes,
exactly.
yes, but they must know that what they are doing is not correct. Okay? Have you seen a Fulani man head a cattle before? Yes, even when you are driving. The cattle will pass in there. You will sit there and look at you. You tell, do you know it's wrong for you to let the cattle cross the road when I'm passing? Look at the way those people behave. So for me, as I'm sitting here, it's not very clear. All I know is it's a flash point. Every year, it rains. Okay, at least rain, we cannot stop rain. This one we can stop. To stop something, we must know the root of it. Is it a law and order issue? Is it a community relations issue? Probably maybe community relations. These people are Fulanis. These people are different people. There is a misunderstanding. They cannot communicate. Is that correct? Which language do they communicate with each other? Is it that issue? Is it the issue of ownership of the cattle and the issue of the ownership of the land? It's not clear to me. If it's clear to anybody out there, the people who are the people to make decisions, then how come every year you don't manage to nail that the problem? So for me, the Fulani issue, it looks so simple, but at the same time looks so complex by the fact that we are not able to pin it down. So we need some answers. If it's true that these people travel all the way from Burkina to this place, from Burkina to which area? Kwawu area is a far journey. We can stop them at the borders if you don't want them to come to Ghana. Okay? You don't sit down there.
That's why we make reference to the ECOWAS protocol on transhumance movement. So there is that arrangement which allows for that. But indeed, yes, it's not just those coming from outside. We do have locals.
The cattle become guys here.
So regardless of who owns them,
yes,
we should be operating within a certain regulatory framework, which we currently are struggling with.
Yes, but why should we be struggling with it?
That's the question.
If the framework is there, what is the framework?
Commitment, we are not enforcing.
Well, it is more than not enforcing, more than not commitment. Well, I'm not pretty sure whether we actually know what the issue is.
The data is there. There's been research, people have written.
So
So maybe you don't
material?
have the information, but the data is actually out there.
Yes, but the more you say the data is there, the more you say the information is there, and we're not acting, it's a serious indictment. I want to believe that there are some aspects of the problem we have not studied very well.
So what stops us from studying very well the problem? Even assuming the data is not there, then if we admit we have a problem, we have to address the problem. We just don't sit and there every year we come and complain.
You are saying the same thing that I'm saying. I'm saying the same thing I'm saying. That if every year it rains, if you can stop the rain and you don't like the rain, you can stop it. Certain the Fulani issue is something we say we don't like. Is that correct? How come you have all the data, you have all the information? Is that correct? You know the problem, you know the issue. It's a movement of cattle from here to here. The cattle is not supposed to be here, but it's always going there. There's a way we can stop it. We take the army, stop them here. How come, if we know all the issues all this time, I'm happy that this is not being politicized. It's a cattle issue, is that correct? It's not a political issue. Okay? So, but the issue is if we really know the issue, so how come we look so incompetent in order to address it? I believe that there are
certain interests.
Yes. Well, there might be some things that we're not getting. It may be possible that the cattle owners may be our brothers and sisters.
It's a fact.
The Fulani is just the one who take care of the cattle. But the way it's put forward there is Burkina Faso people. Correct me if I'm wrong. In fact, the Fulanis are not the owner of the cattle.
Yes, they are not.
But the Fulanis will fight you if they think that you disturb their cattle from eating. That's what is happening. It's not the owner of the cattle who is fighting people. It's the Fulani who is fighting. Because the Fulani is the one who look after the cattle. So, you see, we must look at this carefully. If it's a lot of other issue, I think we can easily face it. We have the army, we have the police. Is that correct? We know the time the Fulanis come, you can put a barricade. Don't go to the Kwao people's land. Because when you go there, you're going to fight with them. Can we do that? Yes, we can do that. We have a lot of army to do that. Why are we not doing it? No, it's not that. It's more than that. The cattle might eat. Because some of these cattle will buy it. So can we demarcate some area for them? So I think if we really know the problem, so how come we are not solving the problem? So for me, it's either the issues are not well clearly defined, a lot of things are muddled up, and that is what we're not doing. But to say that we know everything since 2006? 2006.
It's been asked for Fulani issues.
Yes, that is what bothers me. That is what bothers me.
But we need to also put it in here that, I mean, state categorically that relations have not been this bad. I mean, since this relation started, there have been some good times. They've coexisted. Fulani herdsmen and the host communities have coexisted peacefully. But owing to certain reasons, talking about scarcity of land, resources, climate change issues and all of that, now people have had the need to protect their own more.
Very good.
So raising issues. But now, there is it gives the more reason why we should be
regulating that's what things. I said, we have not yet settled down on knowing the issues. You are just bringing us some more issues. So this particular year, it rained very heavy. What I mean that the Fulani issue is more serious than last year. Is that correct? Which means that we're not done yet. Okay, it's a competition for resources. It's as simple as that. Land,
you become vulnerable.
Cow, competition for resources. Is there a way that we can protect the land at the same time keep the cow? It's a simple question. No, it's not possible. Cow and land cannot coexist in Kwao land. So cow don't come there. No, they can coexist. How do you manage it? You people say you have the data. I said there are some new information coming out that we are not sitting down and looking at the issue very clearly. Until we've done that, then we can ask the follow-up question. Now that you are clear on what is causing the problem, the root of the problem, not the branches, we think that we must solve it. Do we have the resources to solve it? Yes, we have the resources. What issues is a lot of other issues. Do we have the army? Yes. Do we have the police? Yes. We know where the Fulanis are going to come through. Put them down there. Stop them for. If it's true that they're coming from all the way down from Burkina Faso, you can stop them at Tamale.
But you see, that's where I have an issue with with Prof saying we can stop them, because there are bilateral agreements we've signed on to that prevents it. Let me read a portion of some piece here that it's talking about regulation of livestock movements. It says, recognizing the importance of livestock mobility for the preservation of ecosystems and the sustainable use of pastoral resources in arid regions, West African governments have signed regional and bilateral agreements. These agreements establish the rights of pastoralists to move their animals within and across national borders. Example, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Mali, and Mauritania.
Very
so
good.
it's not as simple
Very
as
good.
that.
Very good. So we have that information that there's a protocol for biodiversity, agriculture, because this cattle, they also manure the land
Definitely.
as they move.
Yes.
All these things have been considered. So they came up with a framework, a protocol, which we must operate. But that same protocol, the protocol doesn't mean that there will be law. I mean, we should have unlawful things happening. So we look into that protocol. We cannot stop them at the border. We cannot stop them at Tamale. We cannot stop them at Sunyani. But they have to travel as per the ECOWAS protocol. That's accepted. I have no problem with that. But given that they are traveling, did they cause some problems for the community? Yes. Then how do you face it? Those are the issues that I say we should look at it carefully and be clear that these are the issues and how to address it. It's not a question of that we know the issues, but we continue to happen.
Very well. Chairman, let's hear you then.
Regardless of the protocol, right? Prof asks a question. Internally, we have our own cattle rearing community. Why don't we look at that and make that sustainable, rather than because if it's for biodiversity, our internally cattle mechanism can cure our biodiversity problems. You see, look, if we are going to allow that protocol that you are talking about to continue, we are going to have the problem, the Kwahu problem, because now the people of Kwahu are now protecting their land. Land has become valuable. You understand? Land has become valuable, right? And also, the cattle is competing with the farming community of that particular area. Somebody grows is cassava or yam. The next time it comes, the whole thing is destroyed. Naturally, there's going to be a problem. So either we demarcate, we look at the protocol and say, look, coming from Burkina Faso, Mauritania, all the way to Ghana, we are having problems here. So please, stay there. The one that we have here, how are we going to control it? That is when the law and other factors come in. That is what the 206 proposal that we have to designate maybe this particular area for cattle grazing. So in that area, there's not going to be any farming activities for somebody to get up and say that his farm, that land is a government land. And so it's under government control. You know, but without doing all these kind of things, and we still maintain that because of the protocol, our hands are tied. You have the rain falling every time, and you can't stop the rain.
No, your
yes,
hands are not tied on the protocol.
On the transhumance.
The protocol, but you take that into account and make sure that, given a protocol which you cannot go against, you must operate it because you sign it. Given that the cattle cannot be stopped at the border, but when it comes in there, we have an issue here. How do you make the arrangement work? How do we sort it out?
Yes, so Clara, speak to that issue.
No, like Prof has said, with the protocol, once we've signed onto it, we cannot, and we've ratified it. It's like part of our law. We cannot say that we no longer want to do this, so we can't set aside the protocol.
Nigeria is having problem Fulani. All those who have signed,
they've all signed up.
They are having problems.
Yes. So, but what I'm saying is that this issue is a specialized area. We don't have all the information that is available in the. It's a specialized area. So people have written copiously on it. And then, so there's some information, and people have made recommendations as to how this can work. There are also best practices. Yes. So what we are saying is that the relevant institutions, since we know that this is a problem that we have this Fulani problem, we definitely, as any reasonable people, would have sat down to say that, okay, understand what the problem is and provide solutions to what the problem is. What we are saying is that I'm sure we have, like I said, this is a specialized area. So you have these experts in this area who have done the necessary work. What if there is any outstanding work to be done? Then let's do that work. Let's put in place a plan. There are best practices, and then let's see how to work with the best practices.
Right.
So far, what happens is like every year, we come back to this issue. Every year we talk about it, but it's a specialized area. If we are committed to dealing with it, let's address the issues, and then let's have it can be regulated.
Definitely.
Everywhere, like the point has been made. This is not the only place that we have cattle. So, and this is not the only place that we understand how it works. Let's find a regulatory framework that we are able to balance the competing interests. Because at the end of the day, it's about competing interests. Everybody has an interest that they want to protect.
In West Africa that you have roaming cattle.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that is backed by, the protocol. Yes, Rugula.
We can obey the dictates of the protocol, whilst at the same time regulating it. So if you have foreigners coming in with their cattle, we should have a mechanism to demand that they show proof of capacity to acquire grazing permits.
That's it. And here in Benin, for instance, their local legislation requires that, a certificate.
You must show proof
Yeah.
that when you enter Ghana with your cattle, you have the capacity to acquire a grazing permit in designated land banks that government has provided. Once that proof is shown, then you allow them. Once they fail to show that capacity, you stop them without offending the borders. Well, they normally come through.
They have designated channels that they move through.
So it's possible to regulate it, and like I said, everything lies in the legislation.
Sure. Now, I have here that in Benin, one of the main host countries for transhuman animals from the Sahel, the legislation requires livestock keepers to hold a transhuman certificate, bearing the authorization to live on transhumans and stating the herd's destination, intended reception areas, and the routes to be followed. So it's not like you're just going about. There's a plan. You know where you're going.
So they're able to track you.
Exactly. And that's what we should be.
So why is that when they get to Kwawu, there's a problem there?
Well, because they're allowed to graze just anyhow.
But even more fundamentally, we are not seized with all the facts necessarily to be able to say why these things happen or whether or not they even have the certificate or not. We don't know. But what we do know is that there's a problem and we need to deal with it. We can't just wait every year to be, with our pens ready to tick something off the list, because for me, Fulani herdsmen clashes with host communities is always a calendar activity. You just wait to tick it off. And I think it's a bad thing. We can't. It's like Christmas, it will come. 25th December, it will come. It's clockwork. So moving on, we need to see more of these things play out, and then we see how best we can deal with it. And indeed, I would want to know why that plan you talked about, Ruhula, never saw the light of day, or if indeed
well, like I said in my opening remarks, relative to this matter, it is just our approach as a country. That's how we deal with conflicts. Once there's peace, we go back to sleep. Once tension begins to rise, we move in to stem the tide. Once peace is restored, we move out. That is our attitude. Whether it's chieftaincy, whether it's political violence, whether it's Fulani issue, that has been our approach. And it is not peculiar to any particular government. That has been our attitude as a country, and we need to change that. If we're going to solve a problem, we must solve it wholly in a more sustainable manner.
Very well. Chairman, last comment?
I agree perfectly with what my brother is saying. We can't wait for every year we talk about these things, right? And that's why I said for Kwawu there must be a peculiar problem there. But why that particular area?
But not just Kwawu, in I think at Front Plains as well, it happens there. There are various places,
But this is more prominent, right? And probably there's the conflict between land values and ownership of cattle. All those things needs to be looked into so that we find it. But I'm saying that notwithstanding the protocol, we should look at somebody coming all the way from Mauritania to whatever, all the way to Ghana.
Are you sure they're from Mauritania?
The protocol is there.
So you can't say notwithstanding the protocol. It's the protocol that makes them move. They are backed by that. Exactly.
How many Ghanaian cattle move from Kwawu to vice versa?
We don't know.
Let me just take some messages from our viewers and listeners, and then we wrap up fully here. Now, good morning. This is coming. He says, in Ghanaian politics, every member of a political party aims at making money instead of making a good name. One thing we should not forget is the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. These politicians are just churchgoers. Oh God, save Ghana. Politicians, you're getting a bad name. Seriously, you should do something about that. According to where the Fulani herdsmen are from, if one happens to lead his cattle to destroy someone's farm, the cattle is then divided into 3 parts. Okay, so I mean, this really, I'm not sure this is factual, but I won't continue with that because these are some wild allegations. Now, let me take this coming in from Anthony Ndrapa. He says, please, you don't read my messages. Okay, I'm reading it now. What I understand from the news Cocoa Board boss is that such a facility should not be built at Bole, and that the materials used shows that the former president influenced it for his luxury. So it means that nobody in... Okay, so once again, that wasn't the thrust of the message. So please let's disabuse our minds of that fact. He was raising value for money issues, financial prudence and operational prudence, and not to say that the people of Bole do not deserve good things. Please, that is definitely not the thrust of the CEO of Cocoa Board's message. Please, let's just get that straight. Let's not read politics into this in that direction at all. Now, I'm Eric from Accra. He says, good morning, Abner and your panelists. To me, we have all the personnel from the field of agriculture who know the solution to this Fulani situation. I've done agriculture to the master's level, and I can say for a fact that this is not a matter of soldiers and police. I and other agribusiness men can solve this if our government can give us the go ahead. Cattle ranching is nothing difficult. If the government is serious about this issue, then give the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Food and Agriculture, the go ahead. Okay, so maybe you would want to approach the government to see if you would be considered and perhaps a task force or something that would help deal with the situation. But thanks for your comments. We sincerely appreciate your views, your comments, your contributions. We say a big thank you to you, but also thank you to the panel. This is where we draw the conversation to a close. It's 9:52. Thanks for making a date with us. Thanks for spending your Saturday morning with us. We'll say a big thank you to Mr. Adekoka, Greater Accra Regional Chairperson of the NDC, Professor Clement Judonu, President of the Accra Institute of Technology, Clara Berry Kasati, law lecturer at the Kempa Law School, also a private legal practitioner, and last but not least is Akbar Ruhula Khomeini. I hope I got it right. NPP Communications member, team member. Thank you so much. We'll be back here same time next week. Until then, my name is Abna Tebi. Do have yourselves a very good weekend. Bye-bye.